Miguel, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. My pleasure.
So, you are the owner of a very successful CrossFit gym, SUBU.
Co-owner.
Co-owner, that's
Yeah.
right. Let's not forget about Larry. Um, but 11 years now?
Yeah. We just turned 11 this summer.
This summer, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was
So
a
we
great party
started
too.
summer 2012.
Summer of 2012. Okay. So, you've been doing this a while. Actually, how long have you been doing CrossFit?
I would say probably a year longer than that. So
Okay.
we started, Larry and I, working out together. Fun little story. Just the two of us in this backyard. Neither one of us could really afford it at the time. And we just kind of figured it out on our own. We had his cousin build us a rig and tied a rope to a tree. I was like 25 feet tall. And bought very little equipment. We had a kettlebell, a single barbell, and just kind of winged it.
You had like was it a basketball or a beach
We had a
ball with
soccer
sand?
ball. Yeah, we had a
ball.
soccer ball filled with sand that we measured out to 20 pounds for a medicine ball that exploded at one point on somebody. But yeah, as we grew, we started, Larry started posting stuff on Facebook back when people were on Facebook.
This is that long
And
ago.
it got a little bit of a following. And then the next thing you know, 25, 30 people were coming through the backyard in one particular day.
Wow. Just local people in the neighborhood?
Friends.
Okay.
Friends. And then their friends would show up. And then eventually one person, this guy, Chris, who was a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, showed up and loved it, fell in love with it right away, and said, hey, you guys actually got something going on here. Maybe it's worth taking a look at and seeing if there's a future with it. And it finally clicked on Larry and I. He didn't like his job very much. I didn't have a lot of motivation in mind. Maybe I shouldn't speak for him, but I was in real estate, didn't have a lot of motivation. I was doing okay. I was 25 or something like that, and 26, and I just was doing enough to get by, and my weekends were fun, but I wasn't motivated. And once this started getting rolling, we started falling in love with it even more, seeing people's success grow and the likeness of it grow, that, we thought maybe we can actually do something with this where we can quit our jobs that we just either don't love right now or we're not motivated to do, and we know it's not for the long run. So eventually we just said, hey, why not? Let's go for it. We're young. I got my cert, and Larry got his cert. We signed a lease. Bing, bam, boom. All of a sudden, we're at the building.
And you were calling it CrossFit, right? Like you were sticking to their
We weren't
methodology?
legally calling it CrossFit. We were saying we're doing some CrossFit workouts, but we were certainly not calling ourselves a CrossFit gym. This is in the backyard time.
Got it.
Up until we signed our lease, then we got affiliated, and then we were officially a CrossFit gym. This is June of 2012.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool.
And then now we're here, 11 years later, same building.
Yeah. And you've had some athletes come through too.
Yeah, man. Pretty awesome.
We'll get to those, but
All right.
first question I want to ask you is, can you provide an overview of like your philosophy for CrossFit? Because I know there's a couple different methodologies, and everyone kind of has their own flavor. What is yours?
Yeah, I would say the methodology is the same,
Okay.
but everyone can interpret it the way they want, and everyone can include or exclude, certain movements here or there. I would say that they're not in love with to include in the program, but the methodology is pretty much the same across the board.
Okay.
And there's an elevator pitch that I can give you, and then there's the scientific technical term that we all like to use in the coaching vocabulary. But
Okay.
the elevator pitch is simple. It's the way I describe CrossFit to anyone, because I don't love to sound like a salesman when I'm out there talking to people. I don't really push it.
We have a dog here.
Yeah, she's
and
experimenting.
She's getting into everything.
The other pitch is when people ask me what CrossFit is, I say it's the most fun and effective way to get fit. Mm-hmm. It's simple as that. And you just have to try it. You know, the definition of it really is more. It's constantly varied, functional movement performed at high intensity. So, a varied program, which is pretty much what most people these days kind of follow. Some people that go to conventional gyms, they'll do chest and buys, they'll do tries and legs on another day, or cardio a third day, whatever the case might be. But they switch things up, and that's kind of the essence of the constantly varied aspect of what we do. We certainly have a little bit more of an inclusive, broad and general type of approach to movement. But that's kind of the idea. And then the functional movements, which is what I mean by that, is we do more compound styles type of stuff. We do multi-joint, multi-muscle groups types of movements where we include your whole body as a system to do work. We don't just isolate and do bicep curls. We certainly do them and include them in our program
sometimes
as accessory stuff, but most of our workouts that are for, complete work or work for a certain amount of time, those movements at high intensity are more compound stuff.
Got it. Okay. So there's
and
a couple.
And then the intensity portion of it, which is basically we want your heart rate up. We want you pushing your threshold. We want you breathing heavy. Oh boy, your curtains are down. So the last thing is the intensity. Performed in high intensity, we want to push your body. We want to push your heart rate. We want to breathe heavy. The idea behind that came about because we believe, and through the science of it and through results that have been proven, intensity equals results. So digging in a little deeper, relative intensity depending on the person, their capability at the time, their capacity, and that's really what kind of drives the needle forward.
Gotcha. So when we define intensity, we're talking about heart rate, like how.
It could be viewed in a lot of different ways. It could be viewed by how heavy you're going, how, your heart rate, how fast you're moving. Really, in a general sense, it's your work capacity across broad time. Okay. So you have this amount of work to do. How fast can you do it? Or in this amount of time, how much work can you do? That's kind of the intensity that we're pushing. Obviously, this goes without saying that we prioritize technique before pushing intensity. There's kind of a hierarchy and an order of how you want things done. You want consistency or technique, consistency under the technique, under fatigue, and then you can kind of push that intensity forward, whether it's by loads or by speed or a combination of the two.
Yeah. So I know CrossFit.
Or difficulty level of movement.
Yeah, CrossFit at the beginning kind of had a bad rap about just pushing intensity without technique too much.
Yeah,
and sacrificing form.
Yeah, and I think that came about, unfortunately, with just like anywhere else, bad trainers, possibly, or so many people doing things at home, like we were on our own, just diving in without really researching too much and learning movements before adding that intensity aspect of it.
Got it. Okay.
And of course it got out. The internet's a strong, powerful thing.
Yeah.
And then you have the games, which are very popular. And in the beginning of that era where the CrossFit Games came about, because it was so new still, a lot of the Olympic lifting movements that are so technical and demanding, being done at those speeds that these guys were trying to do it at, was exposing faults in movement.
So it was exposing faults at the beginning, which is why they probably had to concentrate on Olympic lifting a little bit more to get their form right, so that under fatigue they can start doing those movements.
But if you really pay attention, the ones that move better in those competitions do better, perform better, have more capacity, have more stamina, have more flexibility, have more, performance results.
Yeah, something I wish that we would do more in CrossFit, and I'm probably just saying this because this is what I would be good at, is like speed. So like
Well, in what?
a sprint and then maybe a gymnastics move. But then, of course, you're probably going to have to throw like some kind of small lift in there too.
Yeah, and you don't think we do that already?
No, we do. We do. But what I mean by sprint is like not a sprint workout, kind of like a actual sprint, like running.
Yeah, we do 400s. Maybe you're talking about a slow.
I'm talking about like maybe
smaller.
a 200 or something, or like a 200 or a 100 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just because I'm fast and I'm like
Are you
trying to do what I do best. But okay, so how do you approach programming workouts for your athletes? Because there's a couple other different methods. Somebody were talking me to. There's like 4 different types of methods to do it. How do you kind of like program your workouts while thinking about those things?
Yeah, so what I think you're talking about is the models of fitness, right?
The models of fitness.
That are in the training manual. Mm-hmm. You can certainly look at those and think about those or have those in the back of your head while you're programming. And for the most part, I guess we do in a certain way, maybe not all of them, if you want to dive into those and what they mean. But programming in a nutshell just has to be broad, general, and inclusive. So kind of do anything you can throw at it, right? Mm-hmm. So that the program is well varied. But it doesn't just mean with movements. It also means with longevity or length of your workouts where you're testing or training short periods of time where you're moving with a lot of intensity, long periods of time where the intensity probably shortens or is less because you're trying to hold that capacity for a longer period. And then medium workouts, just to make sure that we're able and capable of attacking anything that gets thrown at us in real life, which is really the goal. The goal is to program in a manner that gets us all ready for real life and us to kind of apply that fitness to whatever life throws at us.
Got it. So like when you're programming, you're thinking about varying the movements throughout the week. So obviously you don't want to hit too much of the same muscle group within that week. And then you're varying the length of the workout, meaning some days we'll do sprints, some days we'll do more grindier workouts where it's like 24 minutes, 30 minutes almost, while doing strength and lifting techniques within that. So you try to include all those things throughout the week, right?
Yeah, you really want to vary it in every way imaginable, right? Short, long, medium workouts, heavy, medium, light workouts, intervals where there's work and rest periods. You want to kind of attack every energy system, every type of load demand so that or volume also, so that you're kind of ready for anything. You know, if you have kids, you want to be able to run around with your kid at Disney World and pick them up anytime you need to and put them down and pick them up and put them down. You want to be able to travel and pick up your luggage without needing help. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anything that kind of gets thrown at you, you are prepared and ready for to adapt to it, right? Obviously, when you're snatching or squat snatching, you're not going to go do that in the middle of an airplane to put your baggage on the upper compartment, right?
Sometimes I take my bag.
But the movement mechanics, the motor patterns, the way to use your body as a lever in a way to get from point A to point B or a load from point A to point B, it's there and it's applicable in that situation. You're confident and more than able.
Yeah. So do you think other athletes would benefit from doing a CrossFit style workout within the other sport that they do? So let's say they're soccer players or
I'll use
MMA
myself
fighters.
as an example. Yeah, so I played soccer my whole entire life, right? And I was not into exercising at all. I just played, and that was my exercise and also my fun, right?
Okay.
After doing CrossFit for some years, I started playing again, and I immediately noticed a difference. You know, you don't get pushed off the ball as much or at all. You are obviously outlasting the stamina and the endurance portion of it. You're able to breathe heavy and recover faster.
Yep.
Maybe I'm not in 90-minute game shape as far as my cardiovascular endurance, just because we only train that so much.
Yeah.
But the other demands of being explosive, being strong, not getting pushed around, being agile, all those aspects of my game got better.
Yeah.
Plus your confidence level. Like, you're going to be able to suffer through, let's say, a couple of sprints here and there, and you're going to recover pretty quickly.
Yeah, I definitely think like other athletes can maybe incorporate 3 CrossFit workouts a week.
Well, that depends, right? It depends on your sport, what your goals are really. Because when you talk about athletes that are in certain sports, that training does have to be sport specific. Mm-hmm. Can we help? Of course. Our training program is so broad and general that it just helps you get stronger and more agile and more flexible and create more power or generate more power and be able to take in oxygen and process it better and have more stamina. Like, what athlete wouldn't want to have all those things?
Exactly. All the benefits that CrossFit brings.
Yeah, you're more balanced.
Will help you in anything.
You have more that flexibility aspect of it. You build accuracy. Believe it or not, with all the Olympic lifting. So I don't think there's any athlete in a specific sport out there that wouldn't want to be better at any of those things.
Yeah.
And they don't think that it's going to benefit them. Now, maybe a tennis player doesn't want to get really big and bulky, but you have to really specify your CrossFit program to get big and bulky. I mean, yeah. I've been doing this for 12 years. I don't consider myself bulky at all.
I don't think you can be big and bulky doing CrossFit because you just do so much intense cardio.
Yeah.
That, you're never going to gain enough muscle because of all of that cardio that you're doing.
With the well-varied program, your body is responding to what the demands that it's being put into, right? So it almost knows that I can't get too big, I can't get too small, I got to move this load. I also got to be able to move my body in space, which is basically what we call gymnastics, controlling your body in space. Yep. And we do a lot of it. And you just can't be too big or too small. You just want to be well-rounded.
Well-rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that brings us, so I do want to go into the methods that they talk about. I know like the 2 main ones, there's 2 main ones, and then the other 2 I didn't see too much on those. But let's start with the 10. What is it?
The models of fitness.
Yeah, the models of fitness. Okay.
Yeah, so the 10 general skills, physical skills. What this is it's one of the 4 models that we like to look at when we talk about overall fitness, right? And there's 4 of them, and they're certainly not individualistic in any way. They feed off each other. Very complementary, right? So you have the 10 physical skills, which is, the CrossFit didn't even come up with this. This was another, and I'm going to butcher, so I'm not even going to go there and tell you who it was, but CrossFit likes it, believes in it, so we incorporated it. And it's one of the models that we look at, and it's 10 physical skills that you want to be, let's say, proficient at across the board. Right, and you have, let's see if I can get them all here, but you have your cardiovascular endurance and stamina. Those actually differ a little bit, and we can get into that if you want to. And then you have your strength and flexibility, speed and power.
Speed and power, okay.
And then you have your 4 others, which are coordination, balance, accuracy, and agility. Yeah, so the reason I say them in that order is because those first 4 are things that you want to just train to get better at. Your cardiovascular endurance and your stamina, they do differ by, think of your cardiovascular endurance as something where you're just taking in oxygen and processing it for a long period, where basically running, right?
Yeah.
Where you can do for such a long period, you don't really have to stop because of any particular muscle group. If you're going to have to stop, it's going to be most likely because you just can't handle anymore. because you're having trouble breathing and you're just tired. Your stamina is more localized muscle groups, right?
Okay.
So think about if I had you doing push-ups.
Okay.
You're going to hit your limit because that particular muscle just can't handle anymore. It has nothing to do with your breathing, really, or your, the longevity of how long you can really do work. It's more so that particular muscle group is done.
Yeah. Got
right?
it.
You're going to have to wait and take a rest before you can go again. Whereas if you're doing a slow jog, you can probably keep that going for quite a long period.
Got it.
That's the difference between stamina and cardiovascular. But then you have your strength and your flexibility. These are things that you just have to do, right? To get strong, you just have to lift. Obviously looking well, moving well, but you generally just have to lift to get strong. You most likely have to do mobility work, whether it's dynamic or static stretching, and you're going to get mobile. Those are things that you just have to train. The bottom four, your accuracy, your coordination, your balance, those things you have to practice in order to get better at them. You don't just do it. You have to really do it well, right?
And that takes repetition.
It takes repetition, but maybe not under a lot of fatigue. I like to use probably double unders as this one. Using a jump rope where the jump rope goes through twice every jump. For a lot of people, that coordination and accuracy is an issue because it's so new to them. And it's so neuromuscular that it's hard. And if you can't tie it together, you struggle. And if you try to do that under fatigue in workouts, it's not always going to get better that way. You have to just practice. Maybe do it before you start working out on off days where you don't do anything, where you can solely just focus on that particular thing. If you're trying to throw a ball at a target, you're not going to do it in the middle of workouts and expect to get better. You're going to be breathing heavy. You're going to be tired. You're probably just going to slow things down and practice your aiming, right? So that's kind of the idea behind those things. And then your speed and power just kind of get thrown in with everything together. That's just kind of a benefit to all the other training that you're going to.
And power is your explosiveness of.
You want to think of
picking up a
power
barbell
as an all-inclusive, how much can you generate in whatever type of movement you're doing, whether it's body weight or your speed. In a 100-meter sprint, you're actually generating power.
Got it. Yeah.
Or in a lift, very obviously, right?
Yeah. Okay. So we have
so that's your 10 physical skills.
Okay. And then we have an interesting one, which is the hopper method.
And sorry, let me track back.
Okay.
Because now you got me caught up in it. The idea behind those 10 different physical skills is to be well-rounded in all of them, right? To where if you are well-rounded and proficient across the board, maybe you're not a specialist and phenomenal in any of those things, but you are capable in all of them, you most likely are a better athlete, or let's say a fitter athlete than I am if I'm not well-rounded in all those things. Maybe I have a lot of strength and I have a lot of power and I have a lot of speed, but if I'm not flexible, if I'm not accurate, if I don't have a lot of stamina or cardiovascular endurance, you're going to smoke me every time.
Got it. So you're not, obviously, like if a power lifter comes in, they're going to lift more than you, even if you're the same weight. So of course you're not going to beat that person, but you start doing a mile run, you're probably going to be able to beat that person. Same thing with a long distance cross country runner. He's probably going to smoke you in a mile run, but then you go and you do a lift and you're.
Yeah. So if you take 3 people, right? It's just a general view of things. You take a marathon runner, a power lifter, and a CrossFitter. The CrossFitter will most likely outlift the runner.
Yep.
But not the power lifter. Assuming in a deadlift, powerlifting movements. The CrossFitter will also outrun the power lifter. Power lifter probably won't even start the race because they know they're going to get beat. But not the runner, right? And then the more you start throwing these tests out there where there's different adaptations or different, if you throw a row at these 3 athletes, that cardiovascular endurance that the marathon runner has does not always translate well to the rower. You need power output, and if they don't have that, that CrossFitter is going to win that every time. That power lifter will, depending on the longevity of it, probably won't last longer than a minute with a high output row. So the idea is that the more tests get thrown out there, the more well-rounded athlete is going to come out on top.
And this is basically what the CrossFit Games or any competition tries to do, right?
Pretty much. And that's, if you're trying to compare fitness.
Yeah.
But we are trying to be as fit as possible, right? Or create the best version of ourselves. And that well-rounded athlete is kind of what all of us should be striving for, because of the benefits of it really are outstanding.
Yeah. And how does this tie into the Hopper method?
So the Hopper method is the application of being well-rounded in all the 10 physical skills. So let's say you are well-rounded across all those skills. We go to test. The Hopper is more so about testing, where pretend we have a barrel or hat, and that hat has all these different workouts in it that you're not aware of, and we just pick out of a hat, and let's say it's pick up a sandbag and carry it across your neighborhood and put it on top of a truck, or a wall. Like, we don't train that, but your body can apply all of those techniques and all that training that it does in the CrossFit gym to get the work done, and probably faster than the marathon runner and the power lifter. The power lifter is probably going to move that bag pretty easily, but can they move it across that long distance?
Exactly.
That marathon runner can certainly make the distance, but can they carry the bag along with
lift
it?
The bag.
Maybe not. So that's kind of the idea behind the Hopper is being adaptable and being kind of ready to apply your fitness to the real world.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or any challenge that gets thrown at you.
And it's literally like any kind of like random workout movement that they put in the Hopper, or
and people when people talk about the Hopper, sometimes they like to get a little out of hand. Like, you're not gonna fill a Hopper with a 25-mile run, a 20-mile run, a 15-mile run, a 10-mile run. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's got to be an actual variance in the testing or challenges or whatever you want to throw in there.
But can you put like dig a 4-foot hole with a 3 diameter, 3 foot diameter?
Yeah, adaptability. Now are we talking about the CrossFit Games, or are we just talking about having fun and testing fitness?
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Got it.
Yeah.
That might be kind of fun. Maybe if we ever do a beach day.
I mean, the idea
we have
is
a Hopper
that
thing where it's like fill this basket up with sand and carry it.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to that analogy, if you're building a hole or digging a hole, that marathon runner is not even going to want a piece of the fight. That power lifter is going to talk a lot, but that stamina is going to kick in, and that, something we haven't talked about, but that grit that CrossFit gives in your mind, that mental game is so beneficial and not really spoken about enough, in my opinion, that, that comes into play.
Yeah. This reminds me of a video I saw. You know who Eddie Hall is, right? Okay. Eddie Hall is a strongman from the UK. And he went to some CrossFit event thing where they had him do... what's the workout where it's 30 snatches?
Isabel.
So they had him do Isabel. He actually holds the record for Isabel.
Yeah, I believe it.
He did it in 44 seconds or something like that.
That's the thing, yep.
So he did it in 44 seconds, but this man was on the floor looking like he was about to have a heart attack after.
Yeah.
And then they tried to teach him how to do a handstand walk. So this goes to the whole methodology. Yeah. He's a big guy. He's like 360 pounds. I don't know. He's huge. Yeah. And
so Isabel was a third of his body weight.
And
he probably deadlifts 850 pounds.
Never put it down. Kept it moving. Strict all the way up. It didn't even look like a snatch. It looked more of just like a deadlift deadlift into straight overhead press. But, he did that. And then they tried to get him to do a handstand walk. He couldn't do 4 feet, before tumbling over himself.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
For a big dude like that.
For a
that
big
never
guy like
trains
him,
it. Yeah.
He did pretty good. So this reminds me of that scenario with a strong man can probably come in and crush all of these lifting workouts that we do, but as soon as you throw like a box jump,
We're also talking about the elite of the elite, right? These guys put so much time and effort and focus on their expertise, that, of course, there's going to be some opportunity costs, right? Some other things aren't going to be touched on. But when you take someone that's more in like a sport, like a ball sport, soccer, volleyball, baseball, whatever, I think the benefits of CrossFit would really come into play just because it just helps you become a better athlete. Is it going to help you throw a ball better? It might get you a stronger arm. You're not going to be,
exactly.
A professional pitcher's not going to throw a better curveball because of doing CrossFit, probably. But their arm will probably have less of a chance of injury.
Yeah.
It'll last a little bit longer, potentially. They'll have more power through the hips. The help is there.
Yeah. So I will say, when I first started CrossFit, before that I was doing jiu-jitsu and MMA and kickboxing. And I had so many injuries coming into CrossFit, especially in the shoulder. I'm pretty sure I had some kind of slight tear in my rotator. After doing CrossFit for about 6 months, the pain was gone.
It's crazy.
Like, I strengthened my shoulder enough that it was gone. And that had been hurting for maybe 14 months.
Wild, right?
Year and a half. Yeah.
And you were snatching?
And I was snatching, yeah. And I remember doing my first muscle up.
Doing muscle ups?
And being afraid that I was going to injure it. And I did feel like slight tension, but no pain. But then after practicing, dude, the shoulder pain completely gone.
Yeah.
All my injuries from that life is now gone.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. And I feel stronger than ever. My back feels strong. I don't have back pain. People are starting to complain about back pain at my age. And I'm like, in my office and stuff like that.
And that, I'm like, dude. That's great you bring that up. That's a testament to your approach, too, to the training, because a lot of people out there, and a lot of the reasons why we get those injuries or the bad raps is that people have egos, people like to go overboard. People are addictive, and when they get addicted, CrossFit is addictive, man, because you start to see results, especially in the beginning. You go from 0 to 60 so fast when you are adaptable, right? And when you learn techniques and you start from the beginning, your weights go up really fast, your gymnastics achievements go up really fast, your running gets faster and faster really fast, your recovery period just gets shorter and shorter. But as time goes on, that's not quite the same thing, right? So I've been doing this for 11 years. I would kill for a 5-pound back squat PR, or just one extra muscle up in a big set. Those little victories now are very few and far in between. But because of that strong beginning, people think that, oh, well, I'm getting this good this fast. If I do double what I'm doing as far as my volume or my workouts, start working out twice a day or adding to what I'm doing, I'm going to get twice as good, twice as fast. And that's not the case. The bodies have limits, and unfortunately a lot of people meet them a little too soon. So your approach is great. You go for your hour, you pay attention, you're coachable, and that, the benefits are obvious. You have no more shoulder pain. You're, dare I say, fitter than you've ever been before.
Yes, definitely stronger than I've ever been in my life.
Well, now that you have this new outlook on fitness and what it could potentially mean, obviously everyone's going to have their different opinions on the definition of fitness. Do you think you're overall fitter than ever before?
Oh yeah. There
you go.
Overall fitness, if we're talking about the way we define it in CrossFit, where you're well-rounded in everything, 100%. Now, maybe when I was back in high school while I was wrestling, I might have had a little bit more cardio or gas, but then I was also 115 pounds.
You weren't snatching 165
and I wasn't
pounds.
snatching, and I was just, wrestling someone my weight. And I don't remember ever feeling so sore back then. Like recovery was fast.
Yeah, you're also
everything was fast,
18
but I
years
was
old.
I was like 16, 17 years old, man.
Nobody
Like,
feels anything.
I'm 35 now. And actually this brings up another question. And this is probably very difficult for me. Cuz I don't know if you know this. I train 5 to 6 days a week.
Right now.
Right now in CrossFit. How should you do your rest days? Because right now I base it off of just soreness, but to be honest with you, I push through a lot of that.
Yeah, and that's fine to a certain extent, right? Modulating your work to rest ratios or whatever you want to call it differs person to person, you know.
I've heard 3-1 though.
The general consensus on the ideal situation is working out for 3 straight days, taking a day off, working out 2, taking a day off. If you look at a specific week, right?
Got it.
If you don't have schedule restrictions where Sundays don't mean Sundays to you, then you work out for 3 days, take a day off, work out for 3, take a day off, work out for 3, but never go over 3. And then depending on how you're feeling, maybe you don't do quite 3 days straight if you feel like you need an extra day. That's the general. I go by feel completely. After 11 years, I know when I need to rest, and I know when I can kind of push through a little soreness. I don't like to push through a certain hurt that my body's going through these days. If I feel it, I listen to it, and I just take the day off. Go get some good protein, get some good food in me, and good sleep.
The way I do it is, like sometimes, especially when we hit legs, like that will put me sore for days. But I know I can't take days off, so I'll just push through that type of sore.
You can't take days off.
I don't think I've taken, if I take more than 2 days, even 2 days, I never like to take more than 2. I'll take 1. But if I take more than 2 days, I feel like I will start losing gains. Because also in CrossFit, like let's say I take 2 days, the day before the last day I exercised, we probably only hit like a certain amount of muscle groups. If I hadn't hit, like if it's a leg day where we're doing like not overhead squats because that incorporates shoulders, but let's say we do something with box jumps, squats, and double unders or something like that. And then I take 2 days off, that means 3 days I haven't hit upper body in like a good way, you know? So like I feel like
you don't really believe that.
I can't take more than 2 days.
There's no way you really believe that.
That I can't take more than 2 days?
Yeah.
It depends how sore I am, but I don't think I'm taking past 2.
So I'm going out of town tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, and I come back Friday night. That's going to be about 5 days off.
And you're not planning on training out there at all?
I'm not worried about it.
Really?
No. That's a misconception.
Okay.
And truthfully, more so a misconception with people that are newer to the game still. You know, within 3 years or 5 years, you still get caught up in that, I'm going to lose my gains if I take these days off. And it doesn't quite work like that, unless you're taking a month off or 2 months off. Honestly, it doesn't really quite work that way.
You probably should, after like a couple months of training that hard, probably take 4 or 5 days off, right? Like,
and you might even feel better than you did before. I've taken... Okay, babies. She's the star of the show now.
Yeah.
So I've taken...
Does she do this?
Are you going to do blooper reels?
Yeah, well, honestly,
Where you going?
We'll keep in a little bit of this.
I've gone through spurts where I've taken a couple weeks off, or a week off, full week off, and then come back to lift, and I PR.
Yeah.
Magically. Oh, would you look at that?
I will say when it comes to like lifting.
Okay, you're done.
Like your strength, it probably comes back and it's a little bit better.
Yeah, your strength probably goes away slower than your cardiovascular.
But what would you say about cardio? That kind of like if you're not.
Yeah, but if it's just that easy to get it back, obviously depending on the longevity of how long you were away, but you can get it back pretty quick.
Okay.
You might just feel annoyed for a day or two when you come back.
Yeah, I just start feeling, I don't know, uncomfortable, and
Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes it's fun to just get it back.
Yeah. Maybe I should take a couple
It always
days
depends
off.
on your outlook of it, right? You know, you feel bad after you're gone on vacation for 2 weeks. Let's say you go to Europe for 2 weeks or something. You come back, you feel sluggish and you feel
Yeah.
weak for a couple of days.
Especially if you're just eating and drinking.
Well, you can
and-
look at that thinking, man, I lost all my gains, or you can look at it thinking, oh man, I'm gonna have some fun getting this
Getting it all
this
back.
fitness back.
Yeah. So so let's move on. You've had some athletes in the gym.
Yeah,
Biggest one, Danny Spiegel.
Danny Spiegel.
First of all, how did she join your gym? Was she actually in?
Yeah.
Was she that elite when she first joined your gym, or?
Well, it depends what you consider elite, right? If we're just talking games athlete, not yet. So much potential though with Danny. Danny showed up through one of our older coaches. Her name is Mia, and Mia was coaching at the time. Knew Danny from the beach area,
Okay.
Melbourne area, and trained with her a little bit over there, and did some competitions with her. And Danny, I believe, and I hope, you know, if I'm butchering it, sorry, came over to compete in a team with Mia and another group of people, another gym in town, in the CrossFit Games regional level competition. So they
Okay.
qualified for regionals, they competed. Around the same time, Mia was graduating from school and was looking for a new job to further her career in exercise science, and now she works for TTT up in Atlanta, one of their head coaches, and gone to the games with them. So she's a games athlete too. Once she was leaving, Danny was looking for a new place to train and coach, and didn't hesitate. Why would you? You know,
Yeah.
we brought Danny in, and she immediately she is SUBU. You know, she embodies everything about the motto of just showing up and giving it everything you got, and she certainly worked her way to where she's at. I mean, she earned it. She
Nice.
put in the work, and now she's one of the best athletes in the world.
Yeah, she's definitely the strongest. I mean, she had her moment with that sandbag.
She's laying down. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's hard to argue that Danny's the strongest female in the competition, right? It's hard to argue. But, of course, it's fun to argue about
Yeah.
it. I'm always going to be biased and say, yeah, hell yeah, she's the strongest person in the world. She's just taking me down a bazillion times in the gym. If I would say if there's anything I don't miss from Danny being in the gym is getting my ass kicked every day.
Because she was lifting heavier than you?
There's heavier, going faster, you name it. You know, she's a phenomenal athlete. It's super impressive, but it's motivating. You can view it as detrimental to what you're doing. Like, am I doing something wrong? Or you can take it as motivation. Man, work harder.
Yeah.
You know.
I always take it as motivation because I remember coming into the gym and I picked a few people out of the gym that I was kind of like right behind. I think you know who these people are. These are
We can probably take guesses. Yeah, we don't need to name names.
Sam and Aaron. Like, I came in 6:30, and I always remember, I think this is something everyone instinctually does in CrossFit, and it never fails, is you start looking over
Yeah.
to see where you're at compared to them and to see who's moving faster.
Yeah,
And I remember
and
doing that with Aaron and Sam almost immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
it's a double-edged sword, right? Because it can certainly help motivate you, but sometimes it can stir you in the wrong direction, right? You can try to push in certain aspects of, let's say, movements or difficulty levels in whether it's gymnastics or weightlifting that you're probably not in that realm yet, but it takes you there. Might it get you there faster? Yeah, sometimes. It just depends, right? But the ego can kind of get in the way a little bit, just because you want to compete. And we see it more with males than females, you know. I'm sure everybody could imagine that. But yeah, that competition aspect of it is if you use it right, man, it's a great motivator.
do you have a little bit of that in you?
I can't deny that. I can't deny that on camera. I'll get eaten alive on the comments or wherever this is posted. Yeah, every single day.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
who's your competition?
Everybody knows.
Larry, right?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, there's more now that 11 years in the gym. It's kind of gone a little bit from, oh, it's me versus Larry, where everyone sees me as his underdog because Larry looks like fucking Superman. I don't know if you can curse. You're allowed to curse?
Yeah, you can curse.
But you know, instinctually look at me and think I'm not going to beat this guy. This guy is like a statue, you know. And he wants it just as bad as I do, so it's even harder. And yeah, so that motivated both of us to stay ahead of the game as much as we could for a long period. And then now that we have all these new faces rolling through the gym, for the last like 7 years, it's almost turned into like, man, I want to beat you, but we gotta try to stay ahead of these young kids that keep trying to come in. And every year, I'll be honest, it gets harder and harder, man. Because you know, I don't know if that's a testament to the coaching staff and what we're doing in there, but people are getting fit, and it's
definitely
scary.
is, because
in a good way.
I've seen some people have made exceptional gains.
It's incredible
in the last like year or two,
and that's why we do it, man. Yeah. That you know, ask me kind of what really got me started, but what kept us in it was seeing the results, whether it's feeling better or losing weight or building friendships, you know, like all those things. Whenever we see it at the gym, it reminds us why we do it.
Yeah. You
know, we've had people show us better numbers on their test results from their doctor. We've had people obviously lose a lot of weight, and then this is stuff that you can see. Mm-hmm. We've also had relationships be built where we've had marriages come out from memberships of the gym. We've had kids be born from those relationships. We've had some love and loss relationships. We've kind of had it all, you know, and it's great to see. It's cool. A lot of years ago, when that really struck us hard, was Chris will tell this story. He went to the mall, one of the old owners. He went to the mall and saw 2 members from the gym there hanging out, and ran into them. And he was like, "Oh man, I didn't know you guys knew each other." Like, well, we met at the gym, and that was so cool. That was you know, within the first year or two of us being open. And that really struck a nerve right away. And now it's just second nature, but it happens so much. It's easy to forget about it, but it's there. It's happening every day.
Yeah. One of the things about CrossFit, and especially SUBU, is like the community building. I gotta admit, 80% of my friends are from the gym.
Yeah.
And probably 95% of the people I hang out with are from the gym. You know, and it's really cool that, you know, we're all adults now. Like, we don't have, before it was like school, college, you know, where you would meet your friends, hang out. Yeah. Now we only have work, but, you know, sometimes you don't get to like choose who you work with, and you don't, you know, and sometimes it's not as fun as you think. But coming to the gym and having something in common with a big group of people, I mean, you can ask anyone in the gym, you know, who do you hang out with on a regular basis? I guarantee it's someone from the gym as well.
Yeah, I'd say for the most part.
Yeah, so it's you got to feel proud about building that community, right? And
oh man, yeah, we see it in our events, you know. All these people just show up and they know that they're best friends or you know, really good friends or whatever, and I didn't know that, you know. When we see it in the events, it's cool. It's cool. It's a reminder, and it keeps us going.
Yeah. I like that SUBU also does a ton of social events, lifting events, you know, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we try to get creative.
Yeah.
Make it fun. Keep it fun, but also inclusive to what we do.
Yeah, everyone
when
looks
we came.
forward to them as well. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, are you going to the thing?" And yeah, we're going to the thing, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
But it's that like-mindedness, you know. Everyone has the same goal. You want to surround yourself with people that are going to motivate you, not put you down, and that's what SUBU is. Everyone there is there to, man, back you up.
Yeah, and that's another thing with the CrossFit community is, you know, they always push you. You know, when you think you can't get one more rep out, you have 50 people screaming at you to get that last one in.
Yeah.
And whether it's motivation or just wanting them to stop yelling at you, you bust that last one out.
Yeah. Well, either way, it's motivation, right?
Yeah. And that's what I love about CrossFit and doing workouts with a group. Because when I used to go to like LA Fitness by myself, so many times I come in with a workout plan, and then I get maybe to the upper body, and then I still have abs and like biceps and triceps to do, and then I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go home.
Yeah, you go through the motions.
Yeah, there's no one there to motivate you.
You are your own worst enemy in there.
Yeah, but at the gym, it is worth every penny to go there and have a community of people that push you to do better in your fitness. And then the friendships you make.
Yeah, man, that you know, that happens to everyone. People, I don't know if sometimes people think that it's just so easy for me to work out when I have all this time and I'm there all day, or for Larry, like, just because it's our job. Like, sometimes it's really hard for me to train because I'm there all day. And the last thing I want to do when I'm coaching all day and in that sauna all day, it's hot in there, is work out, you know? So some days it takes that friend to kind of kick you in the butt a little bit and remind you that those days that you don't want to do something, you know, obviously if you're super sore, you should take your rest days, but those days that you don't want to do it are sometimes the most beneficial ones, the more important ones.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a competitor, if you're trying to compete in it.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of competitors, we got a little off track from Spiegel. Let's finish with Spiegel. So while Spiegel was there, how did you go about like training her compared to like the normal?
It's easy. I never trained Danny myself. So Alex Gordon was her coach, and he programmed for her, and they worked out together. And then me and Larry or whoever else was in the gym at the time during open gym hours was working out with them if we were capable.
It seems like your programming is so good, though. I feel like you could.
Oh man, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
you made me blush in front of the camera. Yeah, you know, I would probably describe Alex's program versus mine more toward a competitor. Alex is extremely demanding program and very particular toward being successful at the sport, right? Mine, I would say my approach to programming is more general, broad, and inclusive for the affiliate. Where I program for some competitors at the gym at a lower level than where Danny's at, it's geared more toward trying to get rid of weaknesses and increasing capacity across the board still. Not being super directional about what the CrossFit Games are doing, you know?
Got it. Okay, so when the CrossFit Games are doing double under crossovers, you're not even thinking about...
You just never... It just depends, right? If I have an athlete that is doing local competitions but at a high level to where they show up in that program, we have to include it so they get exposed to it. Would I include it a lot? I don't know, maybe. If that athlete has potential to make it to the CrossFit Games, you have to widen your horizons as much as you can and get as creative as you can, because it seems like the programming is getting, while at the same time more into the basics, it's going into the basics and broadening it in a way. Like the double under crossover was something outrageous and nobody expected, right? Everybody thought the only progression after doing double unders is doing triple unders, right?
Yeah.
Nobody thought no, we're going to take it back to your, like, the old school jump rope roots where you have to play with the jump rope, you know, crossovers and going backwards and whatever. Like, who knows what's next? So that caught a lot of people off guard. And that's, you know, I don't particularly think I need to worry about that with my athletes just yet, unless it starts coming up in local competitions, which it might. You never know.
Or in the open workouts.
There's always stuff that comes out that people get all of a sudden creative with and come out with something fun and challenging that we have to include. But for the most part, if you stick to the basics, constantly varied functional movements at high intensity, you can apply everything that you have in your toolkit to whatever they throw
to those new movements. Yeah, this reminds me of like the handstand push-ups.
Yeah.
But the forward ones, the ones where you like basically do a wall walk and then you start doing your handstand.
Yeah. That's another example of going back to the gymnastics roots. People were doing them that way back in the day, and people don't train them. They forgot about them. Just because for so long the kipping handstand push-up came into play, and that's what people trained. And to do kipping handstand push-ups, you face the other way, and you know, deficits came in, and then people forgot about those roots. You know, you saw legless rope climbs where they had to have their body in an L-shaped position as they climbed in semifinals, and that's back to roots. If you go to a gymnastics gym, a high-level gymnastics gym, they do all those things. They do wall-facing handstand push-ups. They do L-sit rope climbs without using their legs. They do all that stuff in their general training to get strong for their skills.
Wow.
That's what happens.
Okay. I knew about legless rope climbs, but I didn't know they had to like sit their feet out.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to hold it like that the whole way up?
In this particular competition, they just had to get off the ground that way, and then eventually when they got high enough, they could dangle, I guess.
They can dangle their feet.
But their legs, were never allowed to touch the rope.
Oh, man, that sounds like fun. I might want to try that.
Yeah, they're hard. It's a new interesting little challenge. You can always make movements harder, man.
Yeah, I know. I know. They also introduced those handstand walk.
The pirouettes, the turns.
Not the turns. It's where they do a handstand walk to a line, and then they do a handstand push-up.
Freestanding handstand push-up.
And then they go a little bit more, and
yeah, it's wild what they come up with, throw at you, and then they do it. People do it. They adapt to it. Yeah. You know, all the people that win those events, they're just adaptable athletes.
Do local competitions kind of do that? They probably can't get like super skilled with the movements. But
exactly. So that's what I mean by, you know, if your athlete is not at a level where they're going to go to the CrossFit Games or go to these competitions where they're making $25,000 or whatever it is, they're not going to program that type of elite level stuff. Generally, right? I mean, shit, you never know. They keep raising the bar every year.
Yeah.
And if that high bar gets raised, that lower bar for local comps is also going to raise a little bit.
Yeah, and I've done 3 open workouts for 3 years already. And in just those 3 years, each open workout has gotten
more
tougher
technical,
and tougher. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've gotten better and better too. So I've caught up. You know, I definitely think 2022 was my best open placement this year.
So far,
but this year I didn't place as well.
No, you never know. It just depends. When we're at the level that we're at, you know, a lot of it does depend. A lot of it does depend on what comes out when it gets announced. Because you might get something in your wheelhouse. You might get something that is not so much in your wheelhouse. What I can almost guarantee you is that in some way, shape, or form during the season, you're going to get humbled, and you're going to get humbled hard. It happens to all of us. Yeah. To a certain degree, obviously, but everyone gets humbled in one way or another.
Yeah. Every sport I've done, I get humbled. The most humbling one was the jiu-jitsu and MMA. You're always going to get your ass whooped, especially.
Well, jiu-jitsu, the difference in jiu-jitsu is that there's somebody playing defense, you know, or even worse, offense. And,
Yep.
and you don't have that in CrossFit. It's just you and the movements and your mind.
Yeah.
You know, jiu-jitsu, tennis, baseball, whatever, you got somebody coming at you. Football.
Yep.
So they're affecting your performance. That's kind of the nice thing about CrossFit is that whether you want to call it a sport or not, you're master of your own destiny.
Yeah.
Right? You control what happens to your performance.
Exactly. Like it all relies on you, not a teammate and not an opponent.
You can either pull that bar or you can't. You can either get above those rings or you can't. You can either run a 6-minute mile or you can't.
Yeah.
There's nobody there that's going to push you off your tracks.
And I think that it's kind of similar to things like gymnastics or like
figure skating, gymnastics. Yeah, more sports that are more, individualistic or based on judging.
Exactly.
Right? Like snowboarding. Yeah. Maybe not snowboard racing, but like the half pipe.
Yeah.
Or figure skating based on judging. You can kind of claim maybe swimming races because they might not really affect how fast you're swimming. Obviously, swimmers are going to argue that you can kind of swim to your competition, but you know, at the end of the day, they can't get in front of you. They can't push you over. Exactly. They can't pull your leg unless you're in a triathlon or something.
From going faster.
In a pool, you have your lane.
Yeah.
And same as CrossFit, you have your lane, and you move as fast or as slow as you're able.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been doing this sport almost 3 years now, and I absolutely love it. I actually started as just let me just do this for now until I get back into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I was like, just to stay in shape. And then after 2-3 months, I was just like, no, we're doing this. We're not going back. I always loved working out, but I never, like working out in a community, you know, and as a sport, it was awesome.
Yeah, we call that drinking the Kool-Aid.
So all you got to do is stick with it for a month or two, and after that, you just get the bug.
Yeah, and that's also, you know, backtracking to your first question or your second question about how we describe CrossFit or try to get people into it. You just have to try it, man. It can be so misleading or intimidating. If you just peek in the gym, if you're walking by and you peek inside a SUBU on a particular day, you could see all these people taking a barbell from the ground and all the way overhead, dumping it, all these loud noises of heavy weights hitting the ground. And it can be intimidating, you know, because it's so unfamiliar to most people. Mm-hmm. But if you just go in and try it and see how we can modify movement, scale movement, whether it's by degree of difficulty or load or just changing it altogether is something that you can do. Whether it's by similar movement function or changing it up, there's ways to modify everything and make it challenging for that individual. All it takes is a try.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, this isn't just for crazy people, you know, masochists or whatever. This is for the everyday person, you know. Yeah. I've also said it as not everyone's going to be into CrossFit, but everyone would benefit from it.
Yeah.
But not everyone's going to love it.
Yeah. Well, I think if they only tried it, you know, and they stuck with it I'd say you got to stick with it for about a month or two.
Yeah, so but it's just like anything, results. Right? You know, it's not easy. And if it was easy, it's so cliche to say, but everyone would do it.
Yeah.
And it's also like Orange Theory. Like Orange Theory has their workouts, and not everyone's going to like going there. Kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, not everyone's going to like going over there and getting beat up every day.
Yeah, I know.
You know, but some people love it. And if you love it, you stick with it. And we just hope that people come in and take it all in, and not just one day, because you might come in a day where all you're doing is running around the streets of downtown, or all you do is lift weights for an hour, and some people don't like that, you know.
Yeah.
If you come for a few days, you start to see the variance, you start to see the scaling options, you start to see the community a little bit, and that really all encompassing is what kind of sells you into it.
Yeah. And this is why you get 1 free week at SUBU.
That's
right?
why we offer a week, yeah.
Yeah. And I always tell people when I see the people come in for their free week, I'm like, come to as many days as you can.
Yeah.
You know, even if you got a scale, come to as many days as you can so you can see a whole week's workout.
Yeah.
Then you can make your judgment.
One particular day is just not enough.
It's not.
It's not enough. And we, most people don't know this, but we offer this option also 3 sessions before you start to get familiarity with foundation movements, right? So let's say you were new to SUBU, you thought, oh, this is so intimidating. I don't know any of the movements. I don't want to join because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's happening. What are these acronyms on the whiteboard that you guys are talking about? What the hell is a snatch? This sounds dirty. Like, I've never squatted below parallel in my life. We actually have a leeway that we're going to start pushing more here soon, but I guess this is day 1. But you can sign up for 3 days where you can come in at an off hour and work with me or another one of the coaches for an hour each time and get familiar with all the technical stuff to a certain degree, depending on how well you adapt to it and learn the movement. And I've done that with a couple people, and after doing those 3 sessions, they get into the free week from there or into the membership from there directly, and class is a breeze to them because they're comfortable. It's that nobody likes to be uncomfortable on that first free week day or 2. You can feel uncomfortable because it's just new to you, and everybody knows what's going on. Everyone around you is like, oh, I'm going to grab the barbell. I'm going to go grab this kettlebell over here. The bands are over there. Like, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Second nature. But these people are like, where's the water fountain? Like, can I go get some water anytime I want to? It's hot in here. Where's the AC? So it's a lot to take in. And like you said, the more days you come and try it, the more comfortable you're going to be in the situation. And then you can start really having fun with it.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
hard to enjoy it if you're thinking too much about your surroundings. And another thing that people tend to have a hard time getting out of their head is on their first day is that everyone's looking at them and judging them. And man, they couldn't be further from what's going on. Like nobody. I'm sorry.
Everyone's concentrating on themselves.
I'm really sorry, but nobody gives a shit about what you're doing. Other than I want you to do well. I want you to do the best you can do. But if I'm working out at the same time as you, I'm worried about my shit. Yep. Unless you're trying to compete with that person, people aren't judging you, and if anything, they want you to succeed. They're not judging you in a negative manner. So it takes some time sometimes to get a grasp of that.
Anyway, Miguel, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
It was fun.
And Charlie.
And Charlie.